right, what is going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. I know it is I know it's a playoff Sunday, and so I appreciate you taking some time to hang out with us. I see we've already got some Bills Mafia folks in the chat. Corey, are you an NFL guy? Do you follow much?
So I don't really follow too closely. I mean, I live here in Charlotte. We have the Panthers, but I mean, you know how that is, right? That's not a team I can be super proud of. So I just kind of pay attention loosely.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm more of a basketball guy myself.
Me
Yeah,
too.
I never would have said I'm a Magic fan, but I've grown to love the Magic. But I've always been more of a like rather than a team guy. I'm more of I like these particular players. I like to follow
Right.
along those guys. Uh, Matter of fact, my son thinks that I'm crazy because one of my favorite players in the league plays for the Heat, and
hmm
he's like why why do you even care about that? I'm like I like him.
Who is it?
Uh, Jimmy Butler.
Oh yeah, I love Jimmy Butler. He's
Yeah,
just like
I love
scrappy, like chip on his
he is.
shoulder.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories about Jimmy Butler is during COVID. You might remember that the NBA had the bubble here in
hmm
Orlando, and the coffee at the Disney resorts, it sucks. It's not good. It's not Starbucks or anything like that. So Jimmy Butler had his mom send him this high-end coffee machine and some really good coffee, and he was selling cups of coffee to other NBA players for $100 a cup. Uh,
Actually,
yeah, for real. It's one of my
wow,
favorite stories. Made me a fan for life.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So, all right. Enough chit chat. Let's talk about wholesale. We do have the wholesale challenge coming up. And listen, for those of you who are here, going to be straight up with you. There's going to be a pitch. We're gonna sell you something. We're gonna sell you to spend 7 days with Corey and learn all the ins and outs of how he's built his wholesale business. But before we do that, I want to drop some value on you guys, and I want to talk about getting started in wholesale in 2024. The market is changing, and only because Amazon's becoming more and more mature as we go on. Matter of fact, some bad news dropped just the other day, and a lot of arbitrage sellers were up in arms about it. And a lot of people actually, so I posted something, and the bad news was Clinique. Was it, wait, Clinique? Yeah, Clinique
Yeah,
has
I
become
got that
gated.
email.
Okay. Clinique became gated, which sucks. I've sold tons of Clinique brand. It's a great brand to sell. Well, it was a great brand to sell on Amazon. And then I posted some statistics. The fact that the beauty and health care, or sorry, the personal and beauty care, excuse me, beauty and personal care category accounts for about $44 billion a year in sales on Amazon. And Clinique brand accounts for approximately 150 million of those 44 billion. But of course, a lot of people were still upset. Well, it's this brand and then it's another brand, and they're not wrong. As brands mature to the e-commerce age and Amazon matures, more brands will likely come to the point where they're like, hey, you know what? We're going to go ahead and we're going to take control of our distribution chain. And arbitrage sellers don't really have any way to fight back against that. I think wholesale sellers have a little bit more leverage than arbitrage sellers. And then, of
Definitely.
course, there's PL if you want to get into that, where you control it. But the thing is, you're still at the mercy of Amazon. Who says that they
hmm
can't rip off your product if it does well? All right. It's a little bit harder to rip off a brand that maybe has been around for 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years.
Right.
So where do you see wholesale going, not only in 2024, but further than that? Where do you see wholesale, maturing to over the next 5, 6 years?
Yeah, so I mean, I think as a business model, I see wholesale sticking around for the long term, right? I mean, people have been buying products at wholesale and selling them at retail. I mean, it's essentially the business of retail, right? It's been around for centuries and it's not going anywhere, especially on Amazon. Now, as far as how the model itself is going to evolve, I think there's going to be a much bigger shift towards working directly with brands and being an authorized reseller for some of these brands, as opposed to just buying and trying to make a quick flip either from a distributor or from a wholesaler, right? I do think it will always be viable to buy from distributors, buy from wholesalers, and just flip products in bulk on Amazon. But I think the future lies with having those marketing skills that'll help you partner with brands to actually help grow their sales on Amazon. In return, you get to be an authorized reseller or ideally an exclusive reseller.
Perfect. So let me play devil's advocate just a little bit, okay? Because I know that the argument against the brand direct route is going to be, oh, well, brands can do that in-house, number one. But number two, well, there's only so many brands out there, that market's going to get saturated. And now I've got my own answer to that, but I want to hear yours. Is that really a concern over the next 5 or even 10 years?
So let's address both concerns, right? Concern number one is that, well, the brand can just do this themselves. And so that is not necessarily the case for probably 95% of brands. And the reason for that is Amazon is its own beast, right? Selling on Amazon is an entirely separate skill set from creating a brand, selling products on your own website, even selling products into retail. Amazon is a very specialized skill set. And as long as there are brands out there that are focusing on growing their brand, it's gonna be in their best interest to partner with somebody like us that knows how Amazon works, knows how to grow products on Amazon, and essentially outsource that sales channel to them, right? That's all they're doing, because at the end of the day, we know a lot more about Amazon than most of these brands. So that is kind of the first concern there, right? The second concern is, well, what if this gets saturated, right? Of all the brands that are out there, somebody's going to have contacted at least every brand at one point. At what point does this become saturated? And now I say that it never does, right? Because Chris, I mean, what's the statistic? I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but I think last time I looked, there's somewhere it was like, was it 2 million different brands on Amazon? Maybe it was 20 million. Bottom line is there's a very large number of brands on Amazon. Now, granted, only a percentage of those are going to make sense for us to approach with this particular type of business model. But guys, even if 10, 15% of that 2 million brands out there are viable for us, how many people are actually going to put in the work to contact every single one, follow up multiple times until they get the account, go to the trade shows to meet them in person, send them Christmas gifts, do all the things that is required to build those relationships? Probably 1% of all wholesale sellers, right? So bottom line is there's unlimited opportunity. There always will be, as long as Amazon's a platform that you can sell products on.
Yeah. That's exactly kind of where I was thinking. I can't remember the stat on how many brands are on Amazon in total, but I know that in the beauty and personal care category, because I just went digging for all this information, there's 57,632 brands in the beauty and personal care category. And it's not anywhere near the largest category on Amazon. Of course,
Right.
there's shoes and clothing, which is, I think, just overtook books not too long ago, or maybe it was a year ago. And then there's home and kitchen, which is a massive category. I know
Mhm.
those two have got to have way more brands than just the beauty and personal care category.
Totally.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Now, and for those of you who are tuning in, we're going to talk about wholesale and how to get started and things like that. And of course, if you guys have questions, make sure to drop them in the chat, and we're going to answer those for you guys as well. Any question, nothing is off limits. We'll be happy to answer them for you. I want to hit a couple of these really quick. Alon, the first question here is, hey Corey, I signed up for the challenge, but when I try to log in, it says I don't have an account. Sent you an email with a screenshot. So, Alon, I'll tell you what's going on. The live challenge is going to be 7 days inside of a Facebook group. Once those lives happen, they'll be in the Facebook group immediately, the replays. And then what we do with them is we take them out of the Facebook group, we edit them down a little bit, we get rid of the ums and the ahs, and any dead space, and we upload those to a portal for you later on. So you'll get that about a week or so after the challenge is over, and we get them all edited and up there. We also got a note taker, so we're going to have notes on all kinds of stuff. So there's no replays for you yet. You'll get those after the challenge is over. And then the other question comes from, I think, Cameron. If I get your name wrong, I apologize. You're more than welcome uh, to tell me the right pronunciation in the chat. But yes, so if anybody uses my link, which I've sent out in several emails, I am doing some AI. So what I'm doing is I'm going to take all of Corey's knowledge, all of his tweets, all of his posts, everything that Corey's got out there, and I'm building a GPT. Now, if you're not sure what a GPT is, it's really just kind of a little bot that sits inside of Chat GPT that you can go and you can ask questions. You can give it prompts to create outbound emails or create a sales script or an opening script, all kinds of things. You can have it ask questions, et cetera, and so on. I'm going to try to build this uh, out of all of Corey's content, both as private and as public content. And then I'm going to give that to anybody who uses my link. And you'll get that probably about a week after the challenge is over because I've got to train it a little bit.
And that's,
And
I
then
think that's
Ayla,
a crazy valuable bonus because I can't believe nobody has done that yet. But guys, think about essentially a Amazon wholesale version of ChatGPT, right? Where you can ask it pretty nuanced questions, and it's going to pull from everything I've ever tweeted, everything I've ever put on YouTube to give you guys the answer. And I feel like I have covered the majority of topics when it comes to wholesale, right? So this could be a pretty good resource for you guys. And shoot, it's probably something I'm going to use as well. So Chris, I'm going to
yeah,
need to sign up with your code.
yeah, I'll make sure you get it. Elon also said, for anyone who's into Amazon and been under a rock lately, Corey is basically the Mark Zuckerberg of Amazon FBA. So bro knows what he's talking about.
Elon's been on every single one of our streams that we've done, probably in the last 3 weeks, it feels like. So yeah, shout out to him for coming through and supporting and just being active. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for the compliment.
So here's a question that I'm gonna slow pitch this to you, and I want you to just knock this thing out of the park. Your average billionaire FBA says, when getting accounts, I'm in a place like Pennsylvania. I search, there is no wholesale supplier in Pittsburgh, and so I'd love to hear what you think about that.
So, I mean, that's just incorrect, right? That's just not the case at all. So, what you're going to want to do is fire up Google and choose a category of product that you want to sell in. So, if you want to sell tools, then use the phrase tools. If you want to sell grocery, you can say grocery. But what you're going to do in Google is you're going to type category name. So, let's say grocery, distributor, and then Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right? You type those 4 words into Google and it's going to come up with hundreds, more than likely multiple hundreds of results, right? You're going to go through one by one. You're going to filter them based on our 3 distributor criteria, which I can touch on in detail, or we can kind of get to that later. But bottom line is any supplier you find that meets those 3 criteria that I give you guys, they are more than likely going to be a good fit for your business. You just tell them the products that you're looking to buy because you've done a little research up front, and they will give you a quote, and more than likely it'll be profitable and you can buy those products from that supplier.
Yeah. So I just did a quick Google search, and I've done this before on some lives that you and I have done together, but I've always done the grocery category. Well, this time I did one of your favorites. I did Door Hardware
Oh yeah.
distributor, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I come up with one called AG Morrow of Pittsburgh. And they say that they're the leading distributor of architectural doors, hardware, and hollow metal for the construction industry. That is one that I would probably dive a little bit deeper into, and that literally took me 10 seconds to type that in. So I mean, there's got to be all kinds of suppliers. Pittsburgh is not a small metropolitan area,
Right. Yeah,
and
there's a
then
lot of
outside of that,
suppliers in
yeah,
Pittsburgh.
and outside of that, you've got a bunch of other places too. Columbus is not too far away. Cleveland's not too far away. I'm not familiar with West Virginia, but there's probably some towns in West Virginia that are fairly good size.
So somebody has a really good tip here, and actually, I pretty much executed on this tip earlier today, and I'll tell you guys how that looked. But somebody said, so a tip that I see is basically write the names of the distributors that you see on the sides of trucks who are dropping off merchandise every morning at your local gas station, convenience store, 7-Eleven, etc. So that's a great tip. So
Oh
guys,
yeah.
when you're just out and about, and like think about it, when you're at the grocery store or when you're at the convenience store, a lot of times there are big distributor trucks there like delivering orders to that store, right? And so all you got to do is take a picture of the truck and then Google search the supplier, call them up, send them an email, tell them what you're looking to buy, and then boom, you've just got a foot in the door at a local supplier in your area, right? So that's a really good tip. And guys, just this morning, there's a restaurant that's on the first floor of my apartment. And every day, I'm going to give you guys a free lead. Not every day, but probably every few days, there is a distributor dropping off food to their kitchen. and the distributor name is Cheney Bros Inc. or Cheney Bros
Yep.
International.
Very
They're
popular here.
yeah, they're in like Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, a couple other states. But guys, they're a really big grocery distributor in those states that I mentioned. So Google them, call them up, try to open an account. That's a perfectly legitimate opportunity for anybody.
Yeah. So one of the I don't do very much wholesale. Okay, but I mean I've like learning about it. I like talking with Corey about it. I like the OA hunt still. But one of the first accounts that I ever got was in a Speedway parking lot. And it was actually a Little Debbie distributor. It ended up not being a good move just because of how short dated Little Debbie's are, and I knew that if
Right.
I had access to that kind of thing, I'd look a lot like Big Deborah. Not too not too long, but it was super easy to do, and I think one of the other things that people should do is like have conversation. If you see a guy stacking chips in a grocery store, those are
Yep.
usually not employees of the grocery store. Those are employees of the distributor, or they own their own route. And you can go talk to those people and just be like, hey, I happen to sell, and they're looking to move product just because they're stacking a shelf at a grocery store, at a convenience store, at a gas station, doesn't mean they're not looking to hand out business cards and sell even more.
Right. So true.
Let's see here. Sorry, we got a couple more questions I want to answer here. So Ahmed is curious, what's the focus? Buying from a wholesaler or buying from the brand directly? In my opinion, both will have challenges. How do we know if the wholesaler is legit, and how can I convince a brand to allow me to sell? So that's a couple of questions in one. Let's break these down. Should you focus more on buying from wholesalers, or should you focus more on buying from brands directly?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and I'm glad that somebody asked. And so, guys, this is something that we actually spend an entire day going over during the wholesale challenge. I believe it's day 2, finding suppliers. So we spend a lot of time finding a ton of brands and a ton of distributors. But bottom line, guys, there is no downside to either, right? The only thing that you're going to want to keep in mind is that brands typically care more about what you're going to do to help them grow their sales on Amazon, as opposed to distributors who really only care about how much money you're going to spend, right? So I think it makes sense to write down, 20 to 30 brands in a particular category, call up every brand, try to open a wholesale account, and then find 20 to 30 distributors in that same category and do the same exercise. And then kind of alternate back and forth, brands, distributors, and you will find some luck. And I do think that if you have more luck on the brand direct side starting out, then double down on that and continue looking for more brands. And if you have earlier luck buying from distributors, then I say double down there and start contacting more distributors.
Absolutely. Now, the other part of this question is how do we know if a wholesaler, a supplier, a distributor is legit?
So, I mean, first, biggest red flag by far is if the deal looks too good to be true, it probably is. So if they're offering you products that where the sales rank is like 3,000 and you've got 100% ROI, for example, right? That's just too good to be true. Like that's not a realistic opportunity. Another thing that you can do to verify a supplier is legit is just call them up, right? I mean, it's going to be pretty hard for a supplier to fake it on the phone. So just by having a quick 5 to 10 minute conversation with them, you can typically feel them out and get a good feeling for whether or not they're legitimate. Another thing you could do is you could look their facility up on Google Earth. So when you see their facility on Google Earth, you want to make sure it's a warehouse or a big office building, not just like somebody's house, right? Because if it's somebody's house, that's a red flag.
Yeah. And then the last question that Ahmed has is how can he convince a brand to allow him to sell?
Yeah. So again, another good question. And it all depends on the brand, right? So it depends on what the brand wants. There are some brands out there who don't care anything about how their products look on Amazon. They just want to make sales on Amazon, right? And typically those are going to be the easiest accounts to get, which means they're going to be the least profitable, right? The brands that just literally want you to buy and sell product. No barrier to entry. They sell to just about anybody, but they're out there. And then the second thing that you want to look for, like I said, you want to ask brands what it is that they're looking to do on Amazon. If you have specialized skills such as knowing how to run SEO, knowing how to run PPC on your listings, knowing how to optimize those listings, then you're going to be much more valuable to a brand that actually wants to grow their sales on Amazon, right? So it's finding out what it is that they're looking to do on Amazon and helping them accomplish that.
Yeah. So I offered this advice to someone in the first wholesale challenge because questions still get asked in there, and Corey handles the bulk of them. But every now and again, I see a question. I'm like, oh, I got to go in on this. And I think that this, in my opinion, it was good advice, and it kind of goes back to your question, Ahmed, but he had the opportunity to be one of a few sellers from a brand, and they really wanted him to kind of increase the sales and do some work for him, make the listing a little bit better and things like that. And he was worried that he would increase the sales for the other sellers on the listing without being able to take advantage of all of those sales for himself and have an exclusive. And so a lot of times, you need to put your best foot forward first and offer some value before you go in and actually get some exclusivity. And it's not necessarily the most fun thing to do because other people might get a benefit from the work that you do. But long term, maybe it's a year, maybe it's 2 years, that will end up coming back in spades to you, in my opinion.
Totally.
So, all right. This guy has a question. Guy, girl, I'm not sure. So I apologize for assuming. But this person's going to make it. If I'm under 18 and my LLC and my reseller's permit are under my dad's name, do I approach them as my dad's name or my name? Um, it may not be for you yet, in my opinion, but you're going to make it eventually, putting in this kind of work already. But Corey, what would
Yeah, I
you say
love
to
that.
this kid?
So, I mean, really, you're approaching the supplier as a business, right? So, whatever the LLC name is, that's what you would use. So, you would just be, let's just pretend your name's Corey. You'd say, "Hey, I'm Corey with XYZ company," right? That's how I would approach suppliers.
Let's see here. Oh, so Millie Moves has a question. Can you guys talk about dangerous goods program and how to prep shipments and send them out, or guide me in the right direction to find better answers? Because it's really confusing. Do you do much dangerous goods, Corey?
Yeah, so we have done quite a bit of dangerous goods and hazmat in the past. So it's actually the exact same process as your regular like shipment to FBA. The only difference is with dangerous goods, you can't use Amazon's partnered carrier program. So when you get to the final shipment screen, right, you're not going to see an option for partnered carrier. You just choose, I think there's like a third party option. And all you have to do is go on ups.com, choose your ship from address, and then make sure that the ship to address is just the Amazon's warehouse that you're shipping to according to your shipping plan. And then you enter the box weight and dimensions. You generate shipping labels from ups.com. You print them out, you slap them on the box just like you would as if you generated them in Seller Central, right? So the key consideration here is that it's going to be much more expensive when you're shipping just using ups.com, right? Because you're not getting that partnered carrier rate. But that is the best way and really the only way to ship dangerous goods to Amazon, assuming you're
Yeah.
just shipping assuming you're not yet shipping enough to be putting them on pallets.
Yeah, and chances are you're going to need a special sticker. So you're probably going to need that little triangle that is half shaded. That's like, in my opinion, that's like 90% of dangerous good shipments. And you need like a this side up sticker. It's got to be sent ground. You could also use a third party service like Pirate Ship or
Mm-hmm.
some of the other Shippo, some of the other carriers that are out there to maybe get some discounts. But before I even knew about Pirate Ship, I actually went out and Googled discount codes for UPS, and surprisingly enough, there are a lot of them out there to be able to get some discounts on your inbound shipping when you have to send it yourself.
Yep.
So always make sure to look for those. And Millie, I'll tell you what, if you've got some, uh, if you want to shoot me an email, you can do that, and I'll send you some resources that I've got on dangerous good shipping. It's once you do it once, it becomes very simple and not scary at all. Let's see here.
So somebody has a question here. I'm starting out in wholesale. When would you recommend me participating in ASD, or is there a better trade show than this one? So guys, for those of you that aren't familiar, ASD is a trade show that takes place in Las Vegas, Nevada, twice every year. It happens in March, and then I believe again in August. And it's just a really good like general trade show to go to, especially if you're a newer seller, because there are going to be a lot of other Amazon sellers there. And there are a ton of distributors, brands, and wholesalers that you can network with and buy from at the show. So this person's asking if ASD is a good trade show to start. I would definitely say so, right? I would go to ASD here in March. It's coming up in what, like a month and a half. And
Hmm.
that'll help get your feet wet at the trade show. It probably will be pretty overwhelming at first, but just go and look to make like a couple of really good connections. That's all you want to shoot for. And then go back again in August and try to be a little more efficient when you go again in August.
Yeah. And so, Ahmed, one of the other things too is I actually just quickly go and Corey and I have talked about this on a few live streams. Like I talked about the website 10 times. I've talked about a bunch of other things, different trade shows to go to. I quickly Googled VA trade shows or Virginia trade shows. And in March, the Virginia Food and Beverage Expo is coming to Richmond, Virginia.
Ooh,
Would
that'd be
probably
good.
be a great one to go to.
Mm-hmm.
There's a small business expo, which is a B2B trade show. Might not be the best, but I bet you that there's some people there who are going to have some physical products that you could probably go after. So, I mean, there's a ton of trade shows all around the country. We've got Global Pet Expo coming up here pretty soon in Orlando, Florida. There's all kinds of stuff. So make sure to Google those kind of things too. Um, Sorry. So this person is curious, should they get a prep center before sourcing suppliers? Because we don't need to call our prep centers and sign documents with them to let them know that we're working with them.
So my recommendation is to I would find suppliers first and then worry about the prep center afterwards, right? So let's say you find profitable products from a supplier that's located in, let's say, New York. Then as soon as you find those products and you're ready to buy, you can quickly find a prep center located in New York. You can get up and running with them within, I mean, really same day, right? They'll shoot you over a contract, you sign it, and then you can start sending them inventory, and then you order from your supplier, right? So the biggest factor is contacting suppliers, getting accounts open. So focus on that first, because that's what moves the needle, and then kind of fill in the blanks, fill in the gaps after you found profitable products.
Perfect. Um, here's a great question that I've heard you answer several times. What's the average amount needed to start a wholesale business?
Yeah, so typically you're going to need like 5 to 10K for inventory, right? So if you're planning on joining us for the wholesale challenge, that's going to cost $649. With a $100 discount, it's $549. So you would need an additional 5 to 10K on top of that for inventory, ideally. Now, I have seen people start with on the low end 3K, 4K, 5K, and make it work. It's more so the person, right, and the kind of the mindset that you're approaching wholesale with, it's going to determine whether you're successful, more so than the amount of capital that you have. Now, can that amount be received from the government as a non-refundable grant? Not that I'm aware of, but I don't know anything about that. So I'm probably not
Yeah.
the guy to ask.
I wish. I don't know if do you remember that guy who used to have infomercials on TV? He always wore like the loud colored suit with the question marks on it, and
Uh-uh.
talked about the government grants you could get in his book.
Oh no.
No? Oh
I'm
man.
sure there are a lot of guys like that on TV though.
Oh yeah. Excuse me. All right. Elon is asking one more question here. So just to summarize, once I get approved for the Facebook group, all the lives are through there. Yes. Do I keep my prep center private? No, I don't. I've got a handful of prep centers that I know do killer work, and I'm happy to send people to them all the time.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Rebecca Smith says, I have prescription authority and feel like that has to be something I could leverage in wholesale. Access to medical equipment or specialized supplements, maybe. Would love any suggestions.
Yeah, Rebecca. So I think that could be a huge advantage because there are a lot of I wouldn't call them medical devices, but kind of, I guess maybe they might be considered medical devices. Basically, there are a lot of products that you can only get through some of these larger medical products distributors, right? And then some brands in that category will only sell to you if you're a licensed practitioner in some capacity, right? So that could be a huge opportunity for you to get some of these accounts that other people outside of the inventory couldn't get, or I'm sorry, the industry couldn't get, and take advantage of that.
Yeah. One word of warning is some brands, like, if you ever go to a chiropractor's office and they're also selling supplements, sometimes those brands don't want to be sold on Amazon, even though they
That is
are.
true. Yep.
So make sure to have a conversation about that. I had a chiropractor friend in Ohio, and as when I walked into his office one day, my very first question to him was, "Hey man, how can I buy those in bulk from you?" And I had to make sure. He was like, "Well, you can't sell them on Amazon." And I was like, "Oh, all right, well, that's too bad." Um, John asked an interesting question here, and he asked, "How many distributors do you really need? We're finding way too many." Or sorry, we're finding too many. Not sure if we should dig deep with a handful or close more accounts. And I know that I know in your CRM, you have over 4,000 distributors, phone numbers, email, all that stuff. But what's your answer to this question? How many accounts do you actually use?
Yeah, so John, this was actually a mistake that I made in the earlier years, right? I would call a bunch of distributors, I would have and brands, right? I'd have a ton of open wholesale accounts, but instead of taking the time to source those accounts and try to go deep on the ones that I had a foothold with, I kept trying to open more accounts, right? When in reality, it only takes, I mean, you can have, John, a seven or multi 6 to 7 figure business off of 3 to 6 to at most 10 different wholesale accounts, right? Like in my business, we buy from anywhere from 6 on the low end to 10 at the very most different suppliers over, the process of a whole quarter, right? So it doesn't really take that many. The key is once you start buying from, 1 or 2 suppliers, I would focus more on buying more from those 1 or 2, going super deep there, as opposed to spending time having to start from square one with a new supplier. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Flamingo Flyby has a good question here, and it says, "Is it feasible to try wholesale without a loading dock, having it delivered to your home? How are surcharges and availability of liftgate?" And if you don't mind, before you answer this, I want to offer two quick stories. One is I happen to know a guy who is a killer at wholesale, and he lives in a six-story walk-up in New York City, and he's got a full-time job. He's a teacher and he also does wholesale on Amazon. And he has packages delivered to his six-story walk-up in New
That's
York.
crazy.
All right. And so I know that's possible. And then there's another gentleman, the name of Oscar. I really like Oscar on Twitter, but he has all of his wholesale stuff delivered to his home. I think most of it anyway, delivered to his home via Liftgate. But go ahead, Corey. What's your answer to this question?
Yeah, so I mean, it's totally feasible to not have a loading dock. So we bought a warehouse back in 2021 and it didn't even have a loading dock. All of our pallets, all of our deliveries would come in on a box truck that had a lift gate, right? So there might sometimes be a surcharge, especially for a lift gate. I mean, most suppliers, most shipping carriers will charge usually $100, $150 extra for a lift gate. But I mean, like I said, that's how we operated for a while, right? Over a year, having to get a lift gate every time, not having a loading dock, not having a forklift, and most suppliers will ship to your home as well.
Yeah. So I want to tell a couple of other stories. I've got this massive collection of stories that I've seen and heard through my years in the FBA space. So if there's a will, there's a way. All right. So we used to have this. We used to have this when I was really thinking about getting into wholesale when I lived in Ohio. I had a customer that I was selling insurance to, and he had a flex space. He sold kitchen cabinets, countertops, etc. And so I went to him and I just asked him. I said, "Hey, could I have stuff delivered to you, and I'll come pick it up. It'll be out of your warehouse, within 24 hours." And he said yes, absolutely. That was a possibility because he had the extra space. Now, you may not have someone like that, but chances are if you reach out to your network, somebody probably knows somebody. And then the other thing is I have seen people rent U-Haul trucks and back it up to a delivery truck and then just take the items from the delivery truck to the U-Haul truck. You just got to make sure that they're really close in height to each other to be able to do that. But like, if there's a will, there's a way to get it done.
Yep, totally. Couldn't agree more.
All right.
Yeah, Barbara said she
Let's.
worked out of storage units. I did too. I worked out of storage units for all of 2020 and early 2021. We had I think we started with one 10 by 10 unit or 10 by 15 unit. Then we had two of those, and then we had a 10 by 25 unit, and then we had two or three 10 by 25s. So basically, we just kept expanding within that facility. And luckily,
Hmm.
the manager of that facility, she was the coolest lady ever. And it's funny, one day she walked in and I was prepping Rice Krispie treats, right, just in my storage unit, and she was like, "Oh, I love Rice Krispies; they're my favorite." So I dropped off a case behind the desk. And after I did that, it's like anytime I got a package, anytime I got a delivery, she would just text me. She would let him into my unit. Like I didn't even have to be there. It was awesome. She was incredible. So yeah, storage units can definitely work if you find the right place and have a property manager that understands what you're doing.
Yeah. The other moral to that story is that ethical bribes are a good thing.
Oh yeah.
Uh, greasing people's palms, there's nothing wrong with it.
No, nothing wrong at
Um,
all.
So I want to take a moment. We're about 37-minute mark, and we'll answer you guys' questions as long as you guys have them. But let's talk a little bit about the wholesale challenge. It's 7-day wholesale challenge, and what are people going to learn from the Mark Zuckerberg of wholesale if they decide to join?
Well, and let's actually address a question that somebody had on that very topic, right? Somebody said, not trying to be weird, but how is the wholesale challenge going to be different than this live stream? They said that they're trying to decide, they're on the fence. How is the challenge going to be different from like what we're doing right now? So the answer to that question is I couldn't possibly go in deep detail on the 5 pillars of wholesale for multiple hours on one live stream. So that is pretty much the gist of the whole content, right? Every day is centered around one specific pillar of wholesale, and we go deep into that topic. Like the whole night is dedicated to that topic. So you guys basically get an MBA in Amazon wholesale in a 7-day period, multiple guest interviews, multiple bonus resources, an entire Facebook community that's going to be there for life that I'm in answering questions every single day. Chris is in answering questions every single day. It's truly the best wholesale education you can get. Is considering the fact that there aren't even wholesale courses out there for under $2,000, right? Like where we price this is absolutely insane.
I would agree. Yeah, and some of the partnerships and relationships I've seen come out of and we've only done one so far.
Right.
Uh, but some of the partnerships and relationships I've seen come out of the wholesale challenge have been awesome. Some of the business deals that have been done together have been really incredible.
Yep.
And I'm excited to see how that evolves over the next year or 2 years. Yeah, we do this to make money, absolutely. If we said anything different, we'd be lying. However, there is some serious personal fulfillment from being able to see others, get to a place where they want to be in their business. And I don't know. To me, it's almost more important. It may not pay the bills, but it makes you feel pretty good at the end of the day.
And well, it's fun too. We have a good time doing it. Like the live sessions are super energetic. People are in there just, shooting the shit, networking, learning, having a good time. So I enjoy every second of it. I know everybody else does too.
Absolutely. All right. So let's answer a few more questions. Ahmed's got another one here, and he says some brands require that you have some kind of brick and mortar presence before they will approve you. Is there a workaround to this if you do not have a brick and mortar store?
So the thing is, some brands, some distributors, they simply require a brick and mortar store and there's no getting around it. So it's pretty hard to change their mind when this is the objection that they have. I typically just move on because there are plenty of suppliers out there that will not care if you have a brick and mortar store or not.
Exactly. Do you send in mixed SKUs in a case or always separate them?
So it actually depends, right? So again, we don't do any of our own prep anymore. We're only using a prep center, or we're only having our supplier ship to Amazon for us. And for the most part, it's always like we typically buy in case pack quantities. So rarely will we have a box of mixed SKUs.
Hmm. Um, this is an interesting question. I never thought to ask you this. Have you ever sold any items wholesale to government customers?
So maybe, right? Not that I'm like specifically aware of, but a lot of times when we make a sale in the seller app, it'll say business customer, right? So frequently we'll make business sales. And I mean, I'm sure somebody in the government at some point has probably bought something for us from us.
You know, this question actually makes me think of something where there's probably a big opportunity. It's not necessarily something I'd want to do because never mind. The IRS or some government agency might be listening, so I'm going to watch my mouth. But
All right.
there are websites where you can go and you can bid on government contracts, and a lot of those contracts are for products that they need. Let's say
Right.
toilet seats, for example. Well, if you've got a really good toilet seat distributor, chances are you could probably go and bid on one of those contracts and win it, and then just be able to fulfill the product and drop ship to the government. I'm
Right.
sure it's possible to be done,
I'm
and there's
positive.
probably money
Yeah.
to be made there. Yeah. Are food service stores considered distributors? And I'm just going to assume here that you mean something like a Gordon Food Service, which you may know as GFS. Um, would you consider that place a distributor, Corey?
So I wouldn't, and the reason for that is because they typically violate the third of the three distributor criteria. And so the criteria that they violate is that, like Gordon Food Service and these food service companies, they don't sell primarily to retailers, right? Food service distributors, by definition, provide products to the food service industry, like restaurants, right? So when you look at the catalog from a food service distributor, typically it's not retail packaged products. Think, 1 gallon drums of ketchup. Think, gallon drums of olive oil, right? This is stuff that doesn't necessarily sell on Amazon because of the package size. So, as a rule of thumb, after having spun my wheels with food service distributors for literally years, I do not work with food service distributors particularly. Now, there's a difference between food service distributors and grocery distributors, right? Or like dry grocery distributors is kind of what they're typically referred to. That is a different story.
Yeah. Let's see here. I just came in. I guarantee this has been answered. Is there a discount for the VIP group? Yep. Just reach out to me and I'll take care of you. Cameron is curious how many people are registered so far. I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure.
I have
It
no
is
idea.
less than 200 this time around. We did increase the price, and that's made the group much smaller, which I think is actually going to be a plus in the long run. Let's see here. How different will this challenge be than the first wholesale challenge?
So, as far as the content's concerned, there's going to be a lot of carryover, but there are going to be, I guess, new facets to the content. So, I mean, think about it this way too. I've been operating my Amazon business at a high level for the last 7 months between the last challenge and this challenge. And I've learned a ton more in the last 7 months. So, I mean, I'm going to be sharing a lot of the new stuff that I've been learning. I think that as far as how I teach the content, I think because I've been talking about it nonstop for the last 7 months, I think I'm able to teach it in a way now that is going to be a little more concise, probably a little easier to understand than the first time around. And I've continued to put the teachings into practice. So I guess I have a better handle on like how to relay it to you guys. So I think
Yeah.
it's going to be super beneficial. Even if you're a new seller, if you're an intermediate seller, even if you're an advanced seller, there's a lot of stuff that I think you're going to pick up.
Yeah, there's a quote by a guy by the name of Heraclitus, and it says, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and he's not the same man." And, and that's kind of one of the founding principles behind the wholesale challenge and the OA challenge. The reason that we can do these over and over and over again is because Corey is a lot like me, and I'm a lot like Corey in the fact that we're voracious readers. We're always reading new stuff every single day. We're learning new things every single day. We're trying to become better as business owners, as people, as men, and we're also learning about how the market is maturing, how to become, a better Amazon seller. I mean, honestly, like I eat, sleep, and breathe things like Keepa, and I know
Yeah.
Corey does too. And that's kind of the cool thing is it may not the overarching strategy may not change, but there's always going to be a tweak here and there that makes some new information available in these challenges, which is what's kind of so fun about them.
And that's also
Let's
one of the
see.
reasons that a lot of people that took the challenge the first time around have signed up to take it again, right? They understand that, hey, I don't just like absorb 100% of what I've learned, right? It helps to get that reinforced and to, further, I guess, reinforce what they learned the first time around.
hmm So Ivan is curious, and I had a bunch of questions to get to, but I don't think we're going to get to them today. But Ivan said he started reaching out to brands to open up accounts, but it's getting difficult to track email follow-ups for no responses. Do you use a CRM to track follow-ups? If so, which one do you recommend?
Yeah, Ivan. So there are two really good options out there as far as CRMs are concerned. So the first one would be something called VenDrive CRM, and it's literally vendrivecrm.com. That was created by Dylan Carter, who is a former wholesale seller. He now owns the Aura Repricer, but it is like specifically for Amazon wholesale. So that is the first place I would look. The second option that I would look into would be HubSpot's free CRM. You don't have to pay for it. It's completely free. It can help you automate a lot of the follow-up and tracking process.
Hmm. Let's see. Elon has another one here. Corey, can I ask if you've used your entrepreneurship degree? From what I understand, MBA is for existing biz, entrepreneur is for unestablished biz. Are you using the marketing knowledge for promoting brands?
No, I'm not using anything I learned in college. I wish I could say that I am, but I'm not.
Right. Let's see here. With having sourcing experience of only RA and OA, how does one introduce themselves as to where I am buying for my current sales history?
So that's a good question, right? But you don't necessarily have to say that you're already selling the products, right? You could just say, hey, there are a couple of products that you guys carry that I'm interested in buying, right? And you don't have to tell them why you're interested in buying it. Obviously, it's because you've already sold it before. But again, you don't have to reveal the whole story in that first conversation. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Let's see here. Alan, I will get you approved to the Facebook group. Absolutely. Is there going to be a recording of today's meeting? Yeah, this live stream will be up on YouTube after the live is over. Um, Elon's confused by Storefront Stalker Pro. Shoot me a message. We'll talk about that. I don't want to muddy the waters talking about a tool here. Let's see here. Your average FBA billionaire is curious. When selling wholesale, what kind of velocity are you looking for?
So I am looking for any sort of velocity that is going to make me my target monthly profit. And so I'll explain what I mean by that. So guys, regardless of where you are in your selling journey, I think you should set a threshold for profit that you want a profit to make each month for you to consider buying it, right? So for newer sellers, that might be I only want to buy products that make me $50 a month in profit or $100 a month in profit, right? And for example, me in my business, I only buy products that I assume is going to make me at least 400 a month in profit. But the bottom line is you need to have a criteria and you need to stick to it. And the beauty of having that monthly profit threshold that you're looking for is that it automatically factors in your velocity, right? And I'll give you an example of that. So again, if my threshold per month is $400 in profit, then that means that if I'm only going to sell one unit of this product per month, but it makes me $400 profit, then I'm going to buy it, right? And at the same time, if there's a product that only makes me $1 profit per unit, but I'm going to sell 400 per month, then that is fine, right? So that's why I don't like to give people like a blanket suggestion of, oh, it's got to sell 10 units a month or 100 units a month or 500 units a month. It's all about the monthly profit. And if it's got a lower volume, then you want the profit to kind of make up for it. So I hope that answers
Hmm?
your question.
Yeah, that was a great one. So Todd here says he endorses HubSpot, used it with a lot of businesses. I'll tell you what, I love HubSpot the company, but I also love their CTO Dharmesh Shah.
Oh
He is
yeah.
a fascinating guy, and if you ever want to go learn some things, go watch the things that he's got up on YouTube and on podcasts. He's a absolutely interesting fella. Let's see here.
Sabrina said
Sabrina,
this.
thank you.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, so Sabrina is a local here in Florida. Her and her husband are incredible Amazon sellers, and I get to see them every now and again. We have meetups. They're a great couple. But thank you for that. I appreciate it. Alexander is curious. Does it make sense to purchase goods outside the U.S. Or does your technology wholesale business require purchasing within the U.S.?
So we don't purchase from outside the US, right? Everything we're buying is from US based manufacturers and distributors. Now, we have started to look into maybe doing some importing of certain brands from overseas that are easy to get overseas, but aren't necessarily easy to get in the States. But for beginners, general rule of thumb, you're going to be buying in the States 100% of the time.
Thomas asked a good question here. Who or what is the wholesale challenge for?
So great question. So the wholesale challenge is going to be best suited for existing Amazon sellers that are looking to either learn about wholesale and transition into wholesale, or simply add a wholesale component to their business, right? Now, this will also be a great fit for just a hungry entrepreneur that is new to Amazon, but has the capital, has the mindset, has the drive to be successful. And the reason I can say that is I know plenty of people that have started selling on Amazon with wholesale and been successful. But as a general rule of thumb, the people that are successful with wholesale come from an arbitrage background or a book selling background or a private label background.
Perfect. Todd says, sorry, this is a little aside, but Todd says that Dharmesh has been an investor in a couple of businesses of his. Todd, I don't know if you can tell stories or not, but I'd love to hear those stories.
Todd, what the hell are you
Dharmesh,
doing selling on Amazon if
right?
that's the case?
Yeah. Dharmesh fascinates me. I think he's really, really interesting. All right. So here's a really good question. This is kind of a very beginner question, which I think is good. But how do you know what products to buy? Where do you find these in-demand products, and how do you tell how quickly they're selling?
So I'm going to give you a criteria that you can use to kind of verify like products that you would want to be interested in selling on Amazon, right? So you can take a second and search any brand name on Amazon, any big brand, most of their products are going to be on Amazon. Now, when deciding which products from those brands that you want to sell, you want to pay attention to a couple of things. So one, you want to look for product listings that have existing FBA competition. There are other FBA sellers currently selling that product. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, why would I want competition? Why would I want there to be existing sellers? Well, the idea is if other sellers are selling that product, that means they're getting it at a profit from somewhere, which means that we can probably do the same, right? So that first criteria is you want to make sure there are existing FBA sellers. The second criteria is you want to make sure that Amazon has not dominated the buy box for more than 50% of the last year. Okay, so you can simply look at the Keepa graph, set it to the last year. And as long as Amazon is not dominating that listing the majority of the time, then that product is one that is probably going to be one we can sell a lot of, right? And now the third criteria is you just want to make sure the product is selling enough times per month for it to be worth your time. Now, the reason I don't say it's got to be selling 50 times a month or 100 or 300 is because everybody's business is going to be different. So if you're a new seller, I want you to settle for products that are a little slower because I want you to get comfortable with the process of placing orders. Now, if you're an experienced seller like me, well, I might only go for products that I can sell, 50, 100, 200, 300 units per month, depending on the profit. So that is going to be the three criteria that will tell you, hey, this product is probably a good fit for me to sell wholesale, assuming I can get it at the right price.
Perfect. Cameron is curious, what is a CRM? I'm going to handle this one. A CRM stands for Customer Relationship Manager. And it's something that makes it easier to follow up with customers. And in your case, or in our case, a customer would be a wholesale supplier. Just to make sure that did the email get opened? And if it got opened, how long was it opened? And should you send a follow-up email because it's been 3 days? And there's all kinds of complexities that can go into it. But essentially, it just helps you keep track of who you've reached out to, so that you know when to reach out again and stuff like that. Um, Great programs to have if you've got customers. Elon is curious. I don't have many ASINs in my storefront at the moment. Should I start using a repricer?
Or when should I start using a repricer? So typically I recommend once you've got about 10 different products that you're carrying, that's about when it makes sense to use a repricer. So once you hit that 10 product mark, use Aura, right? Aura is going to be one of the better lower price options out there. And then once you're selling about, I'd say probably $50,000 per month on Amazon, that's when you want to switch to a tool like Seller Snap. Seller Snap is definitely expensive, but it is expensive for a reason, right? It gets the job done. It'll make you a lot more sales at higher prices.
Joe Mazan's in the house. What's up, Joe? It's good to see you, man.
What's up, Joe?
Rebecca says the velocity advice has made this YouTube 100% worth it. It makes me even more excited to starting the challenge. That's great news.
Awesome.
Uh, Millie is curious, when creating a website for my business, should I post the items that I sell on Amazon on the website? And is it a good idea to do that?
So I say forget about a Shopify site, especially if you're new. Just have a one-page informational site. It could literally be a landing page. All it needs to say is who you are and what you do, right? Simple as that. Answer those two questions. Don't overcomplicate it and start calling suppliers, right? That's what you want to be focused on, is calling suppliers. Website just needs to be basic.
Perfect. We've got one person says they're a seven-figure OA seller from Turkey. I'll tell you what, Turkey, the country, they've got some killers over
They do,
there
low key, yeah.
in the FBA game. There, I don't think a lot of people hear of them, but I know a handful who are crushing
Me
it.
too.
But they said they're going to join this challenge because they know even one sentence can help me a lot to improve my Amazon business. I really appreciate that take, not just because you're going to join the wholesale challenge, but because it's true. Charlie Munger, before he passed away, he said that there's $1 billion advice in a $30 history book. And it really does only take, one or two sentences out of what you read, out of the courses that you take, to create a large enough lever to make it all worth it. And
So true.
yeah, I say that as someone who just recently spent, a lot of money on a particular course. I won't even say how much because some people will be like, "You're an idiot, Chris." But I spent a lot of money on a course, and I know that one or two of the things that I've already learned will be worth it long term.
Totally.
Alon is curious, am I going to release this GPT to the group or just the people who used your affiliate? So, Alon, I'm going to be completely honest with you. My affiliate link does not actually pay me an affiliate commission. All right. So I did say that people who use my link are going to get access to it. I'll pull the group and see how it feels and talk to Corey a little bit, and we'll make that decision for sure. But yeah, we'll see. Um, sorry, here. Let's see. We've answered that one. Oh, Ahmed's curious. Are there any categories to stay away from?
So, I mean, as a rule of thumb, not really, right? But I mean, just think about it from a logical perspective, right? Tires, you want to stay away from, like furniture, right? Think anything big and bulky that's going to be difficult to sell FBA. Mattresses, right? Even things like some of these big, like power generators, anything like big, bulky, expensive to fulfill will typically not be a good fit for FBA.
Yeah. I do know some guys who used to sell mattresses via FBA and they did really, really well with it, but that sounds like an absolute nightmare. Uh,
Mm,
and I know like for Corey's business, Corey is completely remote. If he wants to hop on a plane tomorrow and go to Hawaii or the other side of the world, he's got nothing that, holds him back. And you can't do that if you don't have a prep center and you had to like handle things like mattresses on your own. Um,
right.
Palmdale here says both Chris and Corey are legit and knowledgeable guys. I took both the OA and the wholesale challenge. Literally made the money back in 2 to 3 weeks. I can really recommend it. Palmdale, I appreciate you, man. That means a ton.
Yeah, thank you, man. He's been a supporter for a while, so shout out to him. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So Facebook user here says, "Hey, I landed a local general store distribution account. Smart move. Why is the ROI so high on these items? I'm used to it being much lower from my OA days."
So the chances are, I would just caution you and make sure that you have like that you're looking at apples to apples comparison, right? So what can happen sometimes, these convenience store distributors carry a lot of products that are sold in multi-packs on Amazon. So I would just caution you to make sure that the Amazon listing that you're looking at is not a multi-pack, right? That you've got the pack size correct. Now, as far as just having high ROI products, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Buy a smaller amount to test it out, send it into FBA, see how it does, and then if it checks out and you don't get many returns, keep buying it. You might have found a really good supplier there.
Yeah. Elon, love Chris's uncle moment when you go on a short rant and start quoting people. I appreciate it. That's kind of how my brain works is in short quotes. Um, but I appreciate that. So uh, Ahmed is curious. What about buyers requiring warranty claims?
So buyers requiring warranty claims. So that's gonna, I believe that's more of like an FBM issue, I think, right? Or you're talking about warrant, like the product warranty, as far as like from the manufacturer.
That's what I'm guessing.
So buyers requiring warranty claims. Honestly, I don't. That's not an issue I personally dealt with. Right. I know that if there's a manufacturer warranty on a product, typically that will still apply to the sale on Amazon, so the customer can still claim or file a warranty claim through the manufacturer, and usually the manufacturer will honor that claim. But as far as what you're asking, sorry, I don't think I have a better answer.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to throw my take on this. There is. This is something that I think a lot of OA and RA people worry about a little bit more because there are some companies, and one of the most recent ones is Stanley, for example. Stanley has sent letters to RA and OA sellers saying, hey, listen, yeah, we know you're selling a Stanley product, but we're not going to honor any warranties. Well, there's a couple sides to this coin. One is, does anybody really check, when you go and try to get a warranty, handled on a particular product? Probably not. So it's sort of a way to try to get you off the listing, but it's not really something that actually works. But the other thing is, if you are buying from a supplier distributor, the warranty should transfer without any issues. They're buying a new
Right.
product, warranty should not be a problem. And as long as the supplier has uh, the permission for you to sell on Amazon, it should not be an issue. Um, and so I don't think it's really a big deal. Outside of that, worst case scenario, that's why we have insurance, and should have insurance. Because if for some reason you get called into some lawsuit, you need to have your insurance handle that for you. Let's see here. Trying to see. Oh, all right. I don't think there's any other questions here. So, Corey, I know we get started tomorrow. Oh, well, we got one more. So we'll take this one question, and then I've got a little something I want to talk about. So Alexander's curious: can a client return the entire batch of goods due to the fact that the manufacturer failed with quality? So, uh, Alexander, I'm gonna make an assumption here. Okay, that you mean if you bought a case pack or even a pallet of goods from a supplier, and maybe there's a recall or there's some sort of problem, can you return the items that you purchased to the supplier or the brand?
Oh, so you're asking me, Chris? I thought you said you're about to take that.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So uh, you can't necessarily, well, let me put it this way, right? So if you sell something to a customer and the customer wants to return it for any reason, Amazon is going to honor that return, right? As long as you're outside of, like, I think the grocery category, there are no returns. But in general, customers can return products for any reason. Now, could you then turn around and return that to your supplier? Well, you could. And if it was expired product, for example, like expired groceries, then I totally would do that, right? That you're not in the wrong there. The supplier's in the wrong. You should be reimbursed. However, if it's a mistake that is in any way whatsoever your fault, never return product to your supplier as a general rule of thumb, because that's the quickest way to burn that bridge. If you commit to a product, you want to follow through with the purchase, even if the price changes, even if it's no longer profitable. Once you commit to something, you got to follow through, because otherwise you'll burn your credibility with your supplier.
Yeah, perfect. All right, and Elon, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you into the Facebook group here shortly. I'll just try not to multitask too much while we're on the live. And then one other question is, what prep center do I use? Uh, Network Prep out in Oregon is who I use. Charles has been a friend of mine for a really, really long time, and he does a great job. But there are some other places that I also recommend. Corey Fox in Montana is another good friend and does a killer job. Um, there's Proven Prep Center in Oregon that does great. Uh, I don't know of anyone in Delaware at the moment, but yeah. Um, Ahmed, what time will the sessions be every day? 6 p.m. every single day. So,
Eastern.
Corey,
Eastern.
yeah, 6 p.m. Eastern. Thank you. Corey, we get started tomorrow at the Wholesale Challenge. Here's our last opportunity, really, to give everybody an elevator pitch as to what they're going to get out of the Wholesale Challenge. What is, I don't know, put your best foot forward for the folks who are here about why they should join.
Guys, the reason that this is I don't even like calling it a course, but let's just call it a course for example's sake. The reason that this is the best course or wholesale education on the market is because it's not just a set of videos or, worksheets that we give to you and you sit down and go through the material. This is a live training. So every day, guys, we're going to be on a live just like this for 2 hours or as long as it takes to get through content that's dedicated to a specific topic each day, answer every single one of your questions, and then give you guys a 21-day action plan at the end of the challenge for which you can actually execute and implement what you learned during the challenge to be successful within that 21-day period. So guys, this training, we did it back in July. We had so many people give us really good feedback on it. I'm looking forward to it. We've had a lot of people sign up to join us already. If you want to learn wholesale and if you're serious about adding it to your business, then this is hands down the best way to do it. So guys, I'll leave it at that. Last thing I will mention is that the cart does close tonight at midnight. I think 11:59 Pacific Standard Time is when we have it set to shut the doors. So guys, you pretty much got that amount of time to decide to join us. And if you do, we're going to kick off tomorrow and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible. I must have blacked out there for a moment, but did you happen to mention the guarantee that we offer?
Oh, so I didn't. So that's another thing, guys. Again, we got such positive feedback when we did this back in July, and we're so confident in the quality of the material that if you, for whatever reason, you don't like it within 7 days, so technically you could take the whole challenge and then at the end of 7 days say, whatever, this wasn't for me. We will give you a full money back refund and give you an extra $50 on top of it, guys. That is how confident we are in this material. That's how life-changing some of this information in this particular community is. So we kind of let
Yeah.
that guarantee speak for itself.
Absolutely. Yeah. So a couple of quick questions I'm going to answer really quick, and then we're going to let Corey hop out of here and let him rest his voice for tomorrow. Where can you watch a recording of this particular meeting? It's going to be up on you. Let's see. We're on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook right now. It'll be there automatically as soon as we're done. Let's see here. Kenny signed up. Awesome. Look forward to having you there. I'll get you approved to the Facebook group here very shortly. Is there a one-to-one training beyond the challenge? So there's not like a one-to-one training right now. There is some small group sessions that are available when you check out. But I'll talk to Corey about one-to-one stuff and whether or not he wants to do something like that. And what about the Q&A? How long is each live? Can you run through the day's schedule? So here's what happens. There are some special guests. Special guests actually kick off tomorrow at noon. 12 p.m. Eastern. And then the regular live happens at 6 p.m. Eastern every single day. Corey goes through his material that he's got planned for the day, and then it's unlimited Q&A time. Now, there are a couple of days during the week where he's going to have something going on at 8 p.m. where he's going to have to stop at 8 o'clock. But we make sure, and Corey makes sure to get all of your questions answered. So essentially, what you need to plan for is you need to plan for this Monday through next Monday, an entire week. It's actually 8 days,
Technically
not
8
7.
days, yeah.
Yeah. But you need to plan for 8 days of being there at 6 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, it's dinner time. What we've had a lot of people do in the past, and I've got picture proof of this, is you cast it to a TV, you sit in front of a TV with your family, the dog, whatever, and you watch it.
It's a family affair.
Let's see. Right. The Wholesale Challenge is the bomb. Well worth the money. You can ask Corey anything, but most likely your questions will have already been answered by Corey. Cameron says, okay, I'm going to get the course. We look forward to seeing you there. I appreciate you guys. And Joe says, I paid way more for other wholesale courses, not half as good. The way Corey puts all of his knowledge together and gets it out is so easy to understand and implement. Joe, I appreciate you for saying that, man. All right. We're gonna wrap it there. If you guys want to join the Wholesale Challenge, again, tonight is the last night. I know that we've been everywhere with it today. You're getting multiple emails. You're seeing lives from us. etc. But the thing is people have to be reminded this is closing down a course is really just like wholesale. The fact is, people have to be reminded that you're there or they forget. Okay, so this is our form of follow up for the wholesale challenge, just like you should follow up with suppliers, distributors, and things like that, because people get busy. All right, so if you want to join the wholesale challenge, learn exactly how to do all this kind of stuff from a guy who's in the trenches and does it every single day. Today is the last day. Cart closes at midnight. You can hit the QR code that's up in the corner. You can see Wholesale Challenge down at the bottom that is scrolling. And I promise you that you will get every penny's worth out of this challenge. And Corey said it just right. We don't like to call it a course because it's not really a course. It is a live kind of tutorial cohort is more probably a better term for it. But again,
Right.
we close at midnight tonight. That is Pacific time. We start tomorrow. First live is going to be at noon Eastern. And then the daily live will be at 6 p.m. Eastern. All the replays will be up for you immediately in the Facebook group, and we will get you approved before everything gets started. So if you want to join, now's the time. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you for hanging out, Corey. And I'll see you tomorrow, man.
Yep. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow.